Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Let me just get rid of the music here. Another fine Wednesday here in the city of Philadelphia. A little gray and cloudy out, but that's good for the spring, right? So good morning. Lots of stuff to go over today. Lots of stuff in the news. We're gonna jump right in. It's St. Patrick's Day. So I just wanted to jump in with something I posted on uh, my Twitter. I just would like to thank Beth for posting this in a group I'm in. But on St. Patrick's Day, since it's St. Patrick's Day, we got to remember that it wasn't actually the potato famine. The potato crop failures happened, but it wasn't the potato crop failures that caused folks in Ireland to die. It was the fact that even though as 400,000 plus Irish peasants starved, landlords exported 17 million pounds sterling worth of grain, cattle, pigs, flour, eggs, and poultry, rather than feed their own farmers who were growing that food. So rather than feeding the farmers and peasants, they just kept up with commerce and exports and exported this food, killing off over 400,000 people in the year 1846 to 47 alone. There were more deaths to come, but that was the one of the main years of the famine. So the famine was entirely created by British colonialism. So interesting factoid. Just keep that in mind as you celebrate your St. Patrick's Day, if you celebrate it, and other than that, enjoy it. I wanted to touch base on a little bit of fake news stuff before we get into EIDL and PPP. I hear a lot about I hear a lot of feedback as a what would we call this channel, a burgeoning journalist. I did do journalism in high school and college, so I have a familiarity with the ethics and rules about journalism, methodologies that and writing techniques. I even have a physical copy of a guidebook, the Associated Press's punctuation guidebook and citation guidebook. So I know how to do all these things. It's just not been my main career over the last 30 some years. So pivoting in this pandemic to provide some journalism is not unfamiliar territory for me. It's just not where I ever envisioned going with this. But we're here to provide it. We try to provide accurate information. When I say accurate information, what do I mean? Well, most news organizations, most journalists refuse to write something or publish something unless and until they can get multiple sources that confirm the same piece of information. Some journalism pieces you can go with a single piece of single source. Say that source has exclusive information, or they were the only eyewitness to an event. There may be no way to get multiple sources for that kind of thing, but in all likelihood, you when you're dealing with matters of health, matters of public policy, events that happened in the public, you can usually get multiple sources to say the same thing. That's a good thing. That means that you have some eye on what the truth of the matter is. Of course, truth can be fungible, truth can be in the eye of the beholder. There is editorialism to anything that anyone presents. Anyone who tells you different is just lying to you. There's no way to 100% guarantee that you're not going to be tinged by your opinion when you print out a piece of information. Even just the fact of selecting what information to pass on is editorializing. So all publications have an editorial bent, no matter how fair and balanced they claim to be. My editorial bent is relatively progressive, progressive in that I am an anti-racism, anti-hate speech activist. I'm anti-fascism. I do not believe that the system of fascism can ever lead to an equitable society, and I believe in an equitable society as the ultimate goal of our social construct. So yes, I have an editorial bent. We all do. Again, anyone telling you different is just flat out lying. You cannot avoid having an editorial bent to what you do. The problem comes when you editorialize in a way that is not factual, that does not have a basis in fact. I, in my entire life, in general, try not to editorialize in a way that is non-factual. Yes, I'll selectively tell parts of the story from time to time, but I always try to maintain the factual nature of what I'm saying. And that's really the best that you can hope for from any storyteller, from any news person, any journalist, anybody writing or relaying reality to you, is that they will try to be factual. There's really nothing more that you can ask. Everyone's going to have some sort of bias and or shading to their story. When I read things that come across my desk from various sources, it's pretty quick to pull out the non-factual ones and be able to just instantly judge that those are non-factual. But that's because I've spent many, many years reading and understanding pieces of information as they come across my desk. Even in my jobs as an information technology specialist, a technical worker, my job as a theater maker, as a person who takes loose pieces of information and draws them together into actualized plans. And in my experiences as a journalist, it's very easy to spot when someone is going counter to fact. But then if you dig into it a little bit, you can easily find where they either got their facts wrong or are just completely lying. And then the story becomes, why are they lying? Why are they telling these falsehoods? So I came across a piece of information. Somebody shared with me a little pamphlet. I'm not even going to cite the publisher or the writer. Suffice it to say, the publisher is on their title page claims to be an organization concerned with returning to classical values of America. They're regressionist organization, political organization. And I don't have a problem with that. You know, I don't have a problem with you expressing what you would like to see in the world. Where I have a problem, and where it becomes a problem for society at large, is when you publish non-factual information as fact, and then also use the other parts of your social movement to call out for liar people who don't agree with your statements. So recently there's been a lot of right-wing pressure. By right-wing I mean Republican, US Republican Party, right-wing pressure on finding statements and finding moments when liberal or left or progressive politicians, newsmakers, media were either slightly wrong, which happens, or when they said something that could be interpreted to be anti-vax. And they're saying the skew of this is to say that it is the left wing that is anti-vaccination and causing vaccination hesitation amongst the population. This is just an outright lie. I, on this channel, other Black and people of color and indigenous-led channels and newsmakers have said that we're not going to argue vaccination, especially with our own communities, especially with the history of negative consequences from the white-led medical community with our populations. We have said that we're not going to trust non-science-based claims about vaccines. That was what Fox News decided to try and ding Kamala Harris for. She did, in fact, say she's not going to trust the Trump administration claims about vaccines without seeing science to back them up. That's a two-source method, that you have one source claiming something and then you have another source backing it up. So this piece of propaganda that was put on my desk, you know, claims things like the vaccines are only 40% effective, or increase the possibility of getting the coronavirus infection by up to 60%, and backs this up with either small study evidence or random study evidence that isn't replicated across other sources. Science also uses a multi-source method for providing fact. So when you see something in one publication, that doesn't mean it's scientifically acceptable. That means that that's what that one researcher found. And then when you look at another publication and that researcher finds the same thing, then you start to build a basis of fact. Science is more rigorous than the news. You get hundreds, sometimes thousands of opinions and research to back those opinions. And then you go with what is more replicable, what happens more frequently. So what happens most frequently with the Moderna, Pfizer, and Johnson & Johnson vaccines is that there are 0 deaths in the test groups that get fully vaccinated. There is a 98 to 99.98 efficacy rate. So very few people in the vaccinated groups show any signs of catching any sort of infection or having live viral cells in their system. And so the body of evidence continues to grow because we continue to get more people vaccinated. We continue to see a downturn in overall infection rate. And we continue to see that those that are vaccinated, even when they do occasionally catch the disease, don't die. Pretty simple. So, I don't know how to combat complete falsehoods without being radical in replying to those falsehoods. From time to time, this station, we're going to express opinions that don't have as much support, but match our editorial bent. And that's just going to be the way it is. I can, as an executive producer, no longer figure out a way to combat negative false information with only multi-source backed true information. So from time to time, we're going to go with single source. We're going to go with information that is not as well vetted, that backs our editorial position. So feel free to consider this this whole channel and anything stated on it as an editorial position. And this channel is for entertainment and information purposes only. And it is as much news as you get off of Fox News or CNBC or MSNBC or CNN. I would say we're not playing with the big boys like AP or PBS that provide really uneditorialized information. So moving on, we wanted to talk about the EIDL, the PPP, the SVOG, and other COVID relief forms for business owners. I know a lot of folks who are business owners, a lot of folks who are freelancers, which means in the United States anyway that you're a business owner. There are a lot of folks who are gig workers, business owners, and the economy for the last, since I graduated high school, since the late 90s, has been moving in a direction of creating more and more gig work position, alleviating larger employers from the necessity to ensure or provide benefits to the majority of their workforce. So all of you are self-employed, which means all of you are supported by the government as businesses or considered by the government to be businesses, that means that the PPP, the SVOG, the EIDL, all of these small business programs, all these small business support programs are for you. Go get your money. I don't know how many times I have to say that, but go get your money. That money is there specifically to help people who have fallen in this kind of nether region where there's people who are employees, and then there's business owners, capital B business owners, and then there's the rest of us that grew up in the 90s and 2000s and started our careers in the middle of an economic downturn when nobody wanted to take responsibility for us, so we had to provide our own retirement plans and insurance, and make sure we stayed healthy and never visited the doctor. I could go on and on about that. At any rate, these programs are out there to help you. They're not super complex to apply to. They require some basic level of understanding your own income, but no more so than when you file your taxes. If you file your taxes yourself, you can understand everything that is needed to apply for the PPP, the EIDL, and the SVOG. So on the PPP, we'll start with the Paycheck Protection Program. Payroll Protection Program, excuse me. Payroll Protection Program was designed initially in phase 1 to provide 8 weeks of payroll protection. It was intended to be a quickly rolled out program by the SBA, the Small Business Administration, to keep businesses afloat during that first shutdown in about a year ago. Starting about a year ago, things were literally completely shut down, and nobody was allowed to go to work. My first gigs got canceled about last week, this time last year. So yeah, you excuse me, I'm gonna get some coffee. You all lost work. Everyone lost work. There were literally like 3 or 4 weeks where everything was shut down, even essential businesses, and where nobody knew what was going on. The payroll protection program was supposed to be rolled out so that companies could keep from putting their employees on unemployment. I don't know whether this is a good or a bad thing. There are good and bad aspects to it, but it didn't work out that way. The SBA, even though it has similar programs, took long enough to implement the payroll protection program that nobody, even the most affected companies, saw money until late July, early August at the earliest. People started getting money into their accounts. So for people, businesses, especially actual small businesses, what they call micro businesses, people with under 500 employees, usually don't have the reserves to handle a drop in business like that. So many businesses shuttered, many businesses closed either temporarily or permanently. Many businesses, business and business owners have just decided, hey, this is a bad time to own a business. I'm gonna close. I'm gonna close my books. I'm in a neutral enough position or a profitable enough position that if I close now, I can get out, be out for the next couple of years, and not have to worry about anything. And that's a valid decision. So the payroll protection program eventually rolled out 3 months after the pandemic started. Larger businesses were helped first because it was advantageous for the banks helping people to help the larger businesses first. Smaller businesses began to be able to apply through smaller banks and economic empowerment companies. The EMSDC is one. There's also here in Philadelphia, the Enterprise Center, several other companies that are designed to support the financial well-being of smaller companies. Also here in Philadelphia, there is a small bank that was founded by one of the original founders of Commerce Bank. It is now Republic Bank, and that bank, the ethics of how that the founder of that bank thinks about banking are relatively friendly to smaller clients. So his theory is the more clients, the better off the bank is, not the bigger the balance sheet. He's worried about number of people versus how much they hold in his bank. It's a relatively good thought. Commerce got bought out by TD Ameritrade and became TD Bank, merged with TD Bank. Excuse me. And so, the owner of Republic Bank left TD and founded Republic Bank. If you're a small business, if you're an individual business, a sole proprietor, and you would like to get a PPP loan, I highly encourage you to, because you definitely lost enough money to qualify. Unless you're in some form of business that I can't even fathom. I don't even know what wouldn't have lost at least 25% of their revenue year over year for the month of March, April, and May of last year. So find a small bank, find a financial assistance organization like Enterprise Center. Find somebody who can help you through this process and who's willing to go to bat for you. Republic Bank is still taking PPP applications for first round and second round. To apply for the PPP, you have to go through the first round application first, and you have to go through the second round application after. You can't apply for them both at the same time. You cannot apply for them one immediately after the other. You have to use up your first PPP or have a mathematically provable plan to use it within a certain amount of time to apply for the second round. That's all not a big deal, because as a sole proprietor, it's really easy to use up your first round PPP in a fully forgivable manner. This is not legal advice. Again, this is just advice, information that I have access to. And what I would recommend, people look into it yourself, look into the rules yourself. Make sure that you feel comfortable ethically using the rules that they're understood as you understand them. The easiest way to receive forgiveness for your PPP loan is use it towards payroll. in a sole proprietorship, in a small business, a micro business, your payroll is usually going to be, excuse me, is usually going to be the majority of your cost. You can pay yourself whatever you choose to pay yourself. And you can choose to pay yourself whenever you choose to pay yourself and however you choose to pay yourself. So, and payments to yourself, owner draws, are a payroll. They are a forgivable expense. So there are limitations. You can't, even if you would normally earn over $100,000 a year, there is $100,000 a year per payroll employee cap on the Paycheck Protection Program. So you can pay yourself up to where you would be earning $100,000 in the year, based on the payments. But for most gig workers, most small businesses, you don't earn that much in a year, in any given year. And so no matter what the size of the payment that you give yourself, you're not going to break that cap. So go apply for the first round PPP if you haven't yet. Go apply for the second round PPP today if you haven't yet, and get that money. It's 8 weeks of payroll for most sole proprietors. That translates to your yearly gross divided by 52 times 8. There were changes with the the Recovery Act signed into law last Thursday, that have been implemented, where it is now completely legal, no matter how you account for it, to use your gross income for the year. That's before any tax deductions. That's the line item on your Schedule C that says gross income, not, your net income, which was a barrier to most people before. So now it's based on your gross income. And if you look at if you have accurate enough records, and you look at it very carefully, if you earned more in one quarter, that's a 3-month period, a fiscal quarter, so it has to be an actual 3-month period, January, February, March, April, May, and June, or July, August, September, or October, November, December. If you earned more in one of those quarters, and had or had a bigger impact, economic impact in one of those quarters, you can use just the data from that quarter to establish your PPP. You're considered a seasonal business, so take a look at your records. If you have records of when you earned your income, the dates that you earned your income, then you can possibly base your PPP off of that quarter and replace the income for that quarter. It's super helpful for folks who work in production, who work in landscaping, who work in even in the travel and hospitality sector. Most of your income comes in one quarter, or a larger portion comes in one quarter. So look at your quarters, look at when you were most affected, and do your books, figure out when is most advantageous to base your PPP loan off of. The second round can be based on the same data. In fact, if you use a small bank like Republic Bank, they'll just straight up ask you, hey, it's your second round application. Do you want to use the same information you gave us before? Sure, why not? You already approved me off of the first round with this information. I'll give you the second round, the same information for the second round. same 8-week benefit for the second round. Same forgiveness rules. So yeah, go out there, do those applications. Some good news. The SBA was going to cut PPP applications at the end of this month, in a little over 2 weeks. But a bill has passed the House with near unanimous consent. Only three Republican naysayers, for the whole entire House of Representatives, as bipartisan as you're going to get. And it's now going to the Senate, where it's expected to be picked up and passed, to extend the deadline for these applications for 60 days, so through the end of May instead of through the end of March, and to also give the SBA an extra 30 days to process the applications after that. That's great news for everybody out there who is just now, I understand you take your time sometimes, and even I had questions going into this process, and so look for the deadline to be updated. It is currently, right now, as of this live show, still stated as the end of this month. So go get your applications in as quickly as possible. But some other good news is that there is no longer a negative to applying for the PPP if you think you qualify for the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. So there used to be a disadvantage. You used to need to choose one or the other program. They are now allowing folks to apply for both programs. If you get the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, you are expected to, in your application, acknowledge any PPP funds that you applied for and or received. And then your SVOG in the second round, your SVOG award will be reduced by the amount that you received in PPP. They're just basically assuming that they're going to go to the same costs, so that you shouldn't be double dipping, you shouldn't be getting both. But they're doing it in a much more logical way as of last Thursday, when they passed the Recovery Act law. Part of that Recovery Act law was to say, hey, this doesn't make sense. We haven't even rolled out the SVOG. How are people going to know, etc. So they made it a lot easier. They said, okay, you can apply for the PPP, you can apply for the SVOG, you can get your money, and then you can be, you can acknowledge that you got this money and then get the rest of the money that you're entitled to, because you're in the production sector. The SVOG, the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, it's not just for physical locations. This is a bad piece of information that I've seen floating around out there a lot. If you review the SVOG, the proposals called the SOS, the Save Our Stages Act, and you review what was passed into law as far as the SVOG, this was never designed to only help folks that had a brick and mortar. It sounds like it because they called it the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant. However, there are a lot of operators. There is the word operators in there. So if you work with brick and mortar live entertainment locations, this part of the recovery is also meant for you. That means people who produce plays, people who work on plays, people who work in movie theaters, people who produce content for movie theaters. There are a ton of organizations and individuals many of which who I am personally, knowledgeable of, who qualify for the SVOG. And it's important that you look when the SBA has currently said they're going to roll out the SVOG rules the beginning of April. So the beginning of next month. It'll probably take them a couple of weeks past that. That's just how the SBA usually works. The SBA just got a new Senate confirmable head, which she was confirmed, and so hopefully she'll kick things into gear over at the SBA. But it's a bureaucratic organization. Takes them a while to roll things out sometimes. So the current plan is to release the rules behind the SVOG and the applications for the SVOG on in early April, meaning the first week of April. Expect to see it sometime around the second week of April to start accepting applications widely. And if you are in the live arts or movie theater production environment, take a look into the SVOG, see if you qualify. The advantage of the SVOG over the PPP is that the SVOG is 6 months based on your full year. The SVOG is only based on your full year. It cannot be based on one given quarter. And the SVOG covers 6 months of payroll. So look at your finances, look at what the difference would be. It could be, literally another third over your PPP loan. If you based it on your full year, it could be less than that, but it's probably not going to be more than that. Your full year, if anything, would probably be less than your what you apply for your PPP. So yeah, that's extra money in your pocket to pay your payroll, to pay for qualified business expenses. All of this money has to go for qualified business expenses. What does that mean? There's a long list on the SBA's closing documents and also on the rules as published that specify what these qualified business expenses are. But just to summarize, a lot of small business owners and micro businesses don't have any of these expenses. There are things like rent on your storefront. There are things like interest on loans, but interest only. So interest on, like, say, if you took a short-term loan for your business to buy inventory, you can pay for the interest on that short-term loan with the PPP funds or the SVOG funds. But you can't pay for the inventory itself. They expect that you had bought that inventory and that since you weren't working, you didn't use up any of that inventory. So you can't cover those expenses. For the most part, it's easier with micro businesses and sole proprietorships, gig workers, to just assume that you're going to use the PPP for your payroll and just use it for payroll. Some caveats to that: if you are collecting unemployment for through the pandemic unemployment assistance program, the PUA, a lot of gig workers have been getting by with that. It is far less than what you would have earned, obviously, because it has caps, and in many states, in many regions, it is very small compared to what you would have earned. The PPP, as I started this out, saying was designed to keep people off of unemployment, but it failed that spectacularly. There's kind of an acknowledgement that both of these programs do go to help people, but again, they're the same. They're supposed to be covering the same costs, so you should not be double dipping. The PUA just got extended through like September. So you can still be claiming unemployment while you're waiting for these loans. But be sure to notify unemployment whenever you do disperse the loan to yourself that you earned that as income. You can be as strategic as you want with that disbursement. Figure out what is most advantageous to you. Do you want to disperse enough money to yourself that you earn the same amount that you were earning pre-pandemic? Do you want to disperse less to yourself and still maintain your eligibility for pandemic unemployment assistance? Do you want to hire some new people and disperse the payroll protection program to them and maintain your distance from your business? These are all personal decisions, and again, they have legal consequences, so I cannot advise you what to do. But do read over all of the materials available publicly. Talk to a tax advisor or a business consultant, and figure out what's most advantageous to you. Figure out what you feel ethically comfortable with, and truly consider the thought process of the people who were making these laws. When you use programs like this, you are using a program that is in the legal system, and while modern laws are written in such a way that they try to be not interpretable, they're still interpreted all along the way. And so with new laws like this, they will hit the courts in multiple cases. And what what judges are going to do is try to understand what the people who passed the law were trying to get accomplished. And it's pretty clear that what they were trying to get accomplished is to replace this lost economic output, this lost income to small businesses, small business owners, and small business employees in the hardest hit sectors of businesses that deal directly with people in person. So yeah, do consider that. Consider what you're doing when you're applying for any of these programs. Consider how you're using them, and use them with good conscience. Don't try and take advantage. Try to get what support that you need to cover your losses for the past year. I mean, we're a year into this pandemic, folks. It's been a long year. Many of us work or worked directly with people face to face every day, and that is still unadvisable. Even if you are fully vaccinated, it's unadvisable for you to work directly face to face with people every day until the transmission rates for coronavirus go below the level of replacement. So go below the level where 2 people are getting sick for every one that was sick. So yeah, you know, these sectors are still hard hit. They're going to be hard hit. I know the Biden administration is trying to shoot for a July soft open, we would call it in the industry. I don't know that we'll get there, especially with information like that flyer that crossed my desk with the falsehoods about the vaccine, you know, from a right-wing perspective, going around, and they're just being passed around. This got forwarded to me in a text message, folks. It's a PDF. You know, every person in the world practically has a cell phone and can read a PDF. They can't, you know, do the research, but they can read a PDF. Anyway, I could get on a rant there. Speaking of ranting, that's, you know, that's my go get your money for the day. I wanted to cover that early in today's broadcast. So thank you for watching and tuning in. And if you need any help and have any questions, any individual questions that you would like to ask, feel free to get in touch. Get in touch on the comments of any of the social media pages. Get in touch with me directly via social media, direct message if you'd like. I'm more than happy to answer any questions to the best of my ability. But there are other folks out there who answer these questions and have experience in them. Many of them will advise you pro bono, especially in this time. Wanted to move on once again to the sad news coming out of Atlanta last night. I was getting ready to go to bed, you know, just reading up on the PPP and the EIDL, finding out, one last get your money thing. The EIDL grants, in addition to restoring the first round applicants to a full $10,000 grant, have now also announced that they're going to do an additional $5,000 grant to the hardest hit businesses. It'll probably be the same process as the $10,000 restoration. But look out for more information on that in the coming months. The $10,000 restoration hasn't even finished yet, but an additional $5,000 grant coming from EIDL, going to EIDL applicants, is both welcome and a boon for those who applied for the EIDL. Back to Atlanta. So as I was getting ready for bed, finding out about the $5,000 thing, Atlanta happened. An idiotic young man decided to shoot up a bunch of Asian massage parlors in the Atlanta area. They're considered spas, they're massage parlors. And yes, with the intonation of massage parlor, there comes the possibility that there were sex workers there, and you know, there were other activities other than what is on the playbill going on. I don't care about that. You shouldn't care about that either. It doesn't matter what they were doing in the building. The fact is that it was identifiably an Asian-based business, with primarily women owning and or operating the businesses, and this idiot decided to shoot into them, or go into them and shoot people, based on nothing more than the fact that they were Asian-owned businesses with women that he could shoot. And what's my support for that? What's my source for that? He posted things on social media, on Facebook and Twitter, that were echoes of the former administration's penchant for calling the coronavirus the China virus, blaming China for the virus's existence, blaming China for a cover-up of how the virus propagated and went global. You fucking idiots. Okay, look, people have been warning, scientists have been warning, sociologists, travel companies, business owners, people have been warning us for literal decades that this was a possibility, that there was going to come a time when a virus or an outbreak was going to happen and it was going to become a pandemic quicker than anything we had seen before because we travel so much. This world is really small when you consider air travel. It takes less than 14 hours to get from the furthest point on the globe to the opposite side, to the antipode. You can get anywhere in the world in under 14 hours. Anywhere. In history, when there was the Black Death propagated so quickly because it lasted, the transmission period lasted longer than a sea voyage. Any cold you get, even your 24-hour flu, lasts longer than an air voyage anywhere in the world. That's how it spread. That's how it spread. Next time you get on a plane and you have the sniffles, blame your fucking self. It's not some conspiracy. It's not some goddamn country trying to rule the world. It's a fact of nature. And then you've got, you know, idiots passing on bad information about the vaccine, and there is blood on the hands of every person passing on bad information like this and allowing the passage of bad information like this. There's blood on the hands of Facebook. There's blood on the hands of Twitter. There's blood on the hands of YouTube, Twitch, Periscope. There's blood on the hands of Parler. Everyone. There's blood on your hands if you decided to either A, not moderate the content that random yahoos are producing, or B, designed a system of flagging and deletion that does not work, that supports the racism and creates an inherently racist system in which reports of anti-Asian and anti-Black racism go ignored. Meanwhile, a person like me uses the word white in a sentence that seems somewhat negative in any sort of way, and I get deleted for a month from being able to post. This. When are you going to do your jobs? When are you going to decide that enough is enough? When are you going to regulate the ability of people to pass hate speech on your platforms? When? It's not the government's job. The government allows free speech, and you've decided to place yourself in the middle of that speech by providing a platform for everybody and their brother. And yes, I use that platform too. But you need, if you're going to create a system whereby you moderate some content, you need to moderate it effectively. This blood is on your hands. If you're a programmer for Facebook, if you're a moderator for Facebook, if you're a person who looks at the flags and complaints and does nothing about them, or refuses to do something when somebody reports content as racist, then the blood is on your hands too. And I urge you to learn and understand what hate speech actually is, which is posts by these idiots about things like the China virus and talking about attacking whole entire countries for a global pandemic, and putting responsibility for a global pandemic on an entire race of people. It's time to do your jobs. It's time to step up. It's past time to step up, but maybe 8 deaths in Atlanta will get you somewhere. Anyway, that's my rant for the day. Sorry if you didn't enjoy it. It is what it is. That's what I have to say for the day. If you, appreciate hearing my editorial position, or would like to hear more about small business, would like to hear more opinion coming from the Black community, support this channel. We have a Patreon, patreon.com/lightthiefproductions. Subscribe to our YouTube, hit like on the videos. I know it seems silly, but it actually helps us. More subscribers means more things and more output that we can make. It means more reach that we have. More likes also means more reach. So if you in any way enjoyed this content, in any way needed this content, or feel good about this content, please just do the basic and hit the like and the subscribe button. Subscribe to our Facebook, Light Thief Productions on Facebook and YouTube, Light Thief Prod on Twitter, because the tags aren't long enough on Twitter to include productions. We go live every Wednesday morning. We produce news and editorial content. We'll continue producing news and editorial content even if we lose these platforms. We'll do it direct off our website, light-thief.com. So keep subscribed to us, keep checking us out. We hope to bring you as much information as you need, and as we can get you, and as much truth as we can find. Tune in next Wednesday. We've got a full slate next Wednesday, lots of guests. We won't be covering as much on small business help. We've got Tamara Anderson of Gumbo Lab next Wednesday, and we've got whatever news happens between now and then. We may talk about some things like immigration, or other important things that I didn't get to this week. Yeah, there's immigration story and defund the PPD story. That's the Philadelphia Police Department story. We'll bring you that information next week. It's not going anywhere, but we'll talk about that next week as well. And feel free to tune into our Twitter and Facebook posts. We post a lot of news and breaking news there that we don't get to on this broadcast. So until next week, thanks so much. Thanks so much for watching, and we hope to see you then.